All right, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite recipes, and I know I say that every time, but this is really one of my favorite recipes. It's our Kale Tempeh Saute salad. I'm going to use a lot of different varieties of kale, and I'm going to saute the kale. I've got fresh spinach. I'm going to use tempeh. Now, if you're not familiar with tempeh, tempeh is a fermented soybean. Sometimes they add brown rice. I'm using the tempeh strips, and these are the hickory flavor. So they're called fake and bacon. And I'm going to use fake and bacon, tomatoes, and I'm going to make a veganaise dressing. Now what I've done is I've just used the 11-inch skillet and I just sauteed the tempeh. It's really easy. It already comes pre-cooked, so you don't have to saute it, but I like to saute it so it has a little crispiness to it. So I'm going to move this aside, and I'm going to use the 7-quart wok. And the reason I like to use the wok in this dish is because I'm going to use a lot of kale, and then it's just going to, it's going to wilt down a little bit. And the type of kale I'm going to use, this is a red kale, and there's different varieties. You have a red curly kale, and also you have a dino kale. And then you have, regular green kale. I mean, there's a lot of different varieties out there. But the part I want to show you about kale is because the stem is oftentimes a little fibrous. And instead of just chopping that off, what I do is I pull it and I strip it. And I just take this away. You could blend this up, or you could saute it, or you could compost it. And then I have my kale, and I can just rip it into pieces. And really, if you love a BLT sandwich, this tastes like a BLT. But we're using kale, so it's highly nutritious. All right, so depending on quantity of how many people you're making this dish for, I'm going to say roughly, I'm going to use probably 3 cups of kale, 4 cups. Okay. Now, when we're doing waterless cooking, the key with waterless cooking that Saladmaster really recommends is putting water in with your vegetable, then taking the lid and draining off the water, the excess water. And just the amount of moisture that's clinging to the vegetables is enough to cook it. Now, I've already washed this kale, so what I'm going to do is just add a couple tablespoons of water, and I'm just going to cook this for medium, click low. Remember, one of the good cooking tips with using waterless vegetables is really having the water seal. And the water seal, the way that I'll get that is just by putting a little bit of water right on top of the lid and just giving it a slight spin. What that does is ensures that our vapor valve is going to click, because really the key is for waterless vegetables, we want to have that vacuum happening. So I'm just going to start this at medium heat. You'll hear this clicking, and then I'm going to drop it to low. And really, after it turns down to low, it's probably roughly like 7 minutes cooking time. Now, sometimes with the vapor valve, because we have the moisture in there, you might hear it clicking immediately after you turn on the heat. Don't turn it down. Actually, what I'll do is kind of a little test, is I'll fill the top of the lid. If it's cold, I know it's just some of that moisture escaping. So you want to make sure the top of your lid is just a little bit hot when you hear that clicking, so you know it's time to turn it down. So anyway, right now I'm going to cook the kale, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to assemble all of our salad. Okay, so you can see our vapor valve is at a steady click, and of course now I'm going to drop the temperature, and I want to go down to a low temperature. You want it to stop clicking. You don't want it to sit there and tap, because when it drops, it helps create that vacuum, cooks all the food faster, and of course, most importantly, we keep more of the nutrition in our food during the cooking process. Okay, now I'm going to work on the dressing for our saute spinach kale salad, and I'm going to take a couple teaspoons of a Dijon mustard, and I'm just going to put that in a bowl. And I'm also going to add some veganaise, and I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of veganaise, a little extra. And so this is a really quick, delicious, easy dressing. I'm going to add some salt, And I've got a Himalayan salt I'm using. You could use any sea salt. I'm going to add a little bit of cayenne pepper. And in addition to that, you want just a little sweetness to kind of cut some of the acidity that I'm going to be adding in the lemons. So I'm going to use about a half a teaspoon of brown rice syrup. But you could also add honey or maple syrup or agave, whatever your preference is as far as dressings go. Sweeteners go. All right, so I've got some lemons, and I'm going to put probably juice from 3 lemons. In fact, I think this really is what I love, the combination of the tartness of the lemon and the flavor of the kale and the hickory flavor of the tempeh. Mix my dressing here. Now you could do a cashew nut dressing, and that's one of the recipes that you've seen me do, is to make the raw cashew nut dressing. So if you're not using veganese, that works really well in this particular recipe. And I'm going to check my kale because I think it's ready. It is. It looks beautiful. Now really when you know kale is done, it does get a little darker in color, but you know you've got that bite. You can really kind of tear the pieces easily, so it's easier to chew. So I've got some spinach, some fresh spinach. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of the kale on top of that. All right. Now a little bit more spinach, and I'm just going to let the heat of the kale, the cooked kale, kind of wilt some of the spinach. And what's going to happen here in a minute as it sits. But what I did is I took the tempeh and I've just cut it into little cubes, little bite-sized pieces. And after it was cooked, and I'm going to add that to the salad. Next I've got my tomatoes, and I just cut these right in half. These are just, you know, I really love the yellow ones. Those are my favorite. Those sweet yellow tomatoes are great, but just all of our cherry tomatoes. And another thing you could add if you're an onion lover is you could add a red onion just diced up. I usually use cone number 2 on the Saladmaster machine. That's the perfect size for onions. I'm going to add a wee bit of black pepper. Really brings a lot of flavor to this particular salad. All right, so now it's time to add our dressing. And you don't want to overdo it with the dressing. First put a little in, kind of stir it around, see how much dressing. You want everything to be lightly coated. All right, this is looking perfect as far as the dressing amount. So I'm really hoping that you try this recipe and you share it with everybody and enjoy, because it's delicious.